Hi, my name is Brian with Ace Appliance in Toledo, Ohio, and welcome back to another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com. Alright, today we're looking at a Whirlpool a Whirlpool top load washer, and the complaint is that it fills with water and then does nothing. So, it'll fill up with water, stop, and just sits there. So what I noticed when I open the lid here is I'm not hearing the lid switch clicking. So when we open and close this lid, you should hear a lid switch clicking. Click on, click open, click closed. You can hear a little bit of a jiggle there, but it's not the loud click that I'm used to hearing from a lid switch. So this lid switch on this particular model is going to be underneath the console on the left side. So that's the first thing we're going to check on this. Alright, so to access that lid switch, we're going to have to remove our console here. It's got two Phillips screws on the back here on each side that you can't see that holds the console down to the top of the lid here. So we'll remove the two Phillips screws. The tools needed for this repair are a Phillips screwdriver, a 5/16 nut driver, and a ratcheter or a small screwdriver to fit in a tight space. Before we do that though, we're going to go ahead and just unplug it. And I'll go ahead and take those screws out. And now we're just going to grab the console, pull it forward, and flip it up. It's hinged in the back. These tabs on each side are what go into the cabinet. So by pulling it forward, you release the tabs, and you can swing it back to the hinge here. So if you look over here, this is where our lid switch is going to be. This is our lid switch. So what we're going to do here is take a look at it. You can see what happens is this lid here, when you close the lid, there's an arm or a bracket attached to the left side of the hinge here, and it goes up and actuates that lid switch when it's closed, and then when it's open it swings out of the lid switch. So first thing we'll do is go ahead and disconnect our wiring harness to the lid switch. Just got a tab we'll release, pull up on the tab, release the wiring harness, and move it out of the way. The lid switch, to remove the lid switch, we're going to do it with the lid open, so the arm's out of the way. And there's a ground screw that we're going to take off here. Looks like it's 1/4 inch. So we'll go ahead and get the ground screw off. That's actually going to be 5/16. Alright, so this tab in the back here we're going to release the switch, and we want to do this with the lid open. So push it on the tab and pull up on the lid switch here and remove it. And you can see the lid switch here. That arm that's attached to the arm you can see the lid switch here. The black arm inside here is what opens and closes the switch. And you can see it's just you're not able to do anything with it here. It's just kind of stuck in the closed position. It's not moving like it should. And actually actually right there you go, it slides back and forth. So this when the arm comes up here, it pulls this black back like that and actuates the click. So we can hear it clicking now, and that's how it normally should sound. So we can either put it back in there and test it to see if it's just needs to be adjusted so that arm hits it better, or if it is actuating and it's just not electrically not closing, we can test it with our meter here at the different points. Alright, so I'm just going to put it back in real fast and see if we can't get that to click, because it sounds okay. It feels good, so and you can see right now it's just not clicking. And if I hold that switch closer to the front, I can get it to click. So I'm assuming at this point that the lid switch is okay, because the lid switch is just not being actuated. So another thing to look at on this is that arm that's attached to the left side hinge here of our door is we need to make sure that that's tight and that it's fully engaging the lid switch. So a lot of times the screws over here on this hinge, there's two Phillips screws here that attach to this the arm here of the hinge, and that's also the arm that goes into the bottom of the lid switch to actuate it, and it's down through underneath the lid here. You can't see it unless we take that apart, but it does seem a little loose. You can wiggle it back and forth here. So we want to tighten the lid up on both sides, both hinges, and we'll see if that takes care of our issue of engaging our lid switch. Alright, so we got the lid switch back in place, and again, to remove that, you just pop the lid up to release the arm out of the lid switch, push it on the back tab here, and remove the switch. You want to be careful with this back tab, especially with a lid switch that's been on here for many years. These tabs will break off, and if that tab breaks off, the lid switch is no good because it won't lock into the cabinet properly, and it'll just move around in there, and it'll do what it's doing now and not actuate the lid switch when the lid's closed. So be careful with that. We're going to put it back in place here, snap it down, and what we're going to do is tighten up our lid here, our lid hinges, and see if that takes care of the issue for us. So we're just going to tighten up the 2 Phillips screws on each side. Alright, and then for the right side, my drill's not going to fit in there, so we're going to get a small screwdriver that'll fit in between the wall there and the lid, and try and tighten it down that way. Alright, I couldn't find a screwdriver small enough to fit between the wall and the lid over here, so I just got a little ratcheter that I can put a Phillips bit into and use that way. So we're just going to tighten it down on this side as well. Alright, and you can see now that if you wiggle the lid around, or try to, it's not wiggling around now that we tighten the hinges down. So if we go ahead and close our lid now, it is, you can hear the click there of the lid switch. So it is engaging the lid switch, and we'll go ahead and start it up and run it through a test here to make sure that the lid switch wasn't damaged and is still electrically working. So we'll go ahead and put our ground screw back on for the lid switch here. We can reconnect our wire harness to the lid switch. You could also test this with a meter. Continuity check between the white wire and the gray wire. If you take the harness off, where the white wire and the gray wire were connected to the switch, the terminals on the switch, you do a continuity check, just an audible tone continuity check. On your multimeter with the door closed, you should hear the audible tone or have a continuity reading. If you don't have the audible setting, door open or the lid open, you won't hear the tone, or you'll have an open line or no continuity. I think it's easier just to start it up and run it, so we're just going to put it back together and check it that way. And to put the console back in place, just the 3 tabs that are going to go into the 3 holes of the lid on each side. We're going to push it to the back. Once we get those in there, slide it to the back and reinstall our 2 Phillips screws. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and just start it up and test it first, instead of in case we have to take it back apart again. Alright, we plugged it back in, and I'm just going to go ahead and start it on any setting. And now it's on an agitation setting. It was already filled up with water when we arrived, and it wouldn't do anything, and now it is agitating. So that was our issue. So we corrected the issue of our lid switch not being actuated by tightening the hinges of our lid. Thank you for watching another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com.